Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey, it's the diary of a Jesus girl. Let the wings of the Spirit of the Lord just a swirl. You are in it, but you know you're not a part of this world. And for the swine, you should never cast your pearl. Yes, it's just the diary of a Jesus girl. The diary of a Jesus girl. Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real-life issues of the committed Christian woman. This podcast will inspire you to love Jesus and impact lives like Jesus. And now it's time for your host, Crystal Day, award-winning author, speaker, and Christian coach.
Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. It is another week and we are in August. It's the first Thursday in August, and my birthday is in few weeks. Woo, woo. Yes, leave me alone, you know. I'm turning 35. Like, I remember my 16th birthday party and cash money and, you know, big excitement. And now I'm reached 35. When did this happen? But, you know, God is good, and it's always a blessing and an honor to be able to just give thanks in all things, you know, and to live to see another birthday. And I'm celebrating all of August as usual. So for this week on the podcast, we have a man in the house, a nice, cute, you know, man on a mission in the house. I don't know when I love the man name in the building. We like it when the men are in the business building, because we want just to be able to share, you know, person's faith journey and how they are making impact. And today we have Aaron Ballantyne, you know, a young man that I met through social media. He's an author of 3 books and just, you know, out there trying to be positive and to just to walk out his purpose. That's the best way that I can put it. So I want to welcome him to the podcast. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good this morning.
You're good. Nice. So welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast again. I'm happy that you accepted my invitation, and I'm just looking forward to hearing a little bit about you, hearing a little bit about how you are, you know, just impacting persons with your purpose. And let's jump into it.
Let's get started.
All right. So normally, Aaron, the question we ask persons first always is, what's your conversion story? I like to just hear how persons came into their relationship with God and what that would have looked like. So you can start there. Tell us a little bit about you also, you know, how you grew up, etc., and then your conversion story.
All right. Well, how I grew up is kind of actually linked to my conversion story. I had a lot of influence from my grandmother before she passed away, and she was probably the most spiritual person I know, most religious person I know. She never missed. There was this thing that comes on every midday, like a prayer, the midday prayer. She never missed that. She always did her devotions in the morning, and whenever she would interact with people, they would often comment that they felt the spirit in her, right? So there were often times when people would call her just for her prayer because they felt something, my family members included. So having grown up with my grandmother up until, before I started primary school, her influence is still strong because we still went to church every Sunday. And it's when I grew up in the church that I was exposed to a lot of things. So I eventually became the youth leader in my church. I was playing the drums at my church. I was on the youth choir, and I was what you would consider that youth liaison. So anything having to do with youth, they'd call on me, basically. And that, again, is in direct reference to the influence that my grandmother had on me. For me as a person, before I go back to my conversion, I am an inquisitive, ever-changing person, I guess you could say. I surprise myself a lot. I'm very creative. I'm very inquisitive. I think about a lot, to be completely honest, and I think it manifests itself in my writing, especially in my books. And I like to experience new things. And experiencing new things often comes in the form of traveling to new places when there's no plan, basically. Like at drop of a hat, I decide somewhere to go and I go just for the experience. Because above all else, I like high quality experiences, right? So back to the conversion. So when I was in high school, there was this art class that we had to take with call it a substitute teacher, right? And he gave us the assignment of, I think I was 13 at the time. He gave us the assignment of drawing something freehand with no parameters, so we could just draw anything, right? The first thing I drew was, so the church that I attended, I don't anymore, is Church of St. John the Evangelist on Manningsville Road. And there is a image, or not really an image, it's on a tapestry, an image of Jesus and an eagle. So I used the image of Jesus. I drew the image of Jesus standing on water. Basically, that was my assignment, right? Then because we got a week to do it, as time passed, and I looked more and more at it, I started thinking that it wasn't a good drawing. It was a good drawing, you know, but I started thinking it wasn't the best drawing or what I had wanted, you know, because you're a kid and you get influenced by cartoons and all them stuff. So when it drew closer to the time to submit, I did another drawing, right? It was of a character riding a dragon, right? Both of them were good. But in my opinion, to be completely honest, the Jesus one was better. But I liked the dragon one more. So the dragon one is what I submitted. And when I submitted it to my teacher, he asked me if there was any other drawings, and I showed him the Jesus one. And he looked at me dumbfounded, asking me, so why didn't you submit this one? I would have given me a way higher grade if I had submitted this one. And after the experience, as simple as it is, how I rationalize it is to put my faith in Jesus, essentially. So the drawing experience was kind of a physical manifestation of whenever I doubt myself or I doubt something that I do, essentially I should put my trust where I've been seeing fruitfulness, essentially. So that's kind of that was the first domino that fell as it relates to my decision to, you know, take on God wholeheartedly, get confirmed, because in the Anglican religion, confirmation is like, what you call it, you know, it's like your decision to be baptized, essentially. And, you know, when you're baptized, you're young, you don't really have to say you're a baby. But confirmation is essentially that rebirth, so to speak, when you yourself made the decision to come to Jesus. And that's kind of what that experience was like. And ever since then, because my relationship with religion and church has always been strange. Like I said, I think about a lot, so much so that it breeds a lot of doubt in the religion itself. So my faith base essentially is in Jesus or in God, and how it manifests itself in my daily life is I will often have conversations with him, and it seems strange whenever I tell people, because especially Christians, because they think I'm just making it up, or they just straight out don't believe me. You know, but I don't pay them any mind, because when I do have these conversations, and when me and him, work out a plan as to what I ought to do, or when he gives me directions or he aligns me with resources to accomplish what he wants me to accomplish, and it does get accomplished, and I really can't take what what earthly men say to me as what gospel is, so to speak, when I'm having a conversation with a higher being and I'm seeing the fruits manifest in my life. So I guess that's me in a nutshell, really.
Okay. So you mentioned one of the things, you know, after being very active in what you'd have considered religion, and then kind of transition in as you got older to what does a personal relationship look like. And this led into you know, writing books and trying to walk out what you believe is God's purpose for your life. Tell us how did you get into wanting to write books and, you know, being a positive role model and, you know, just being on this journey of faith to know that this is what God has called you to do?
This answer is going to have a lot of layers to it, because it's progressive. It wasn't an overnight thing. So it started in university. When I started going to UTech around that time, I was given assistance through the Ministry of Education's Jam-Pack program, and a part of it was completing 200 hours of community service. I did it at the Jamaica Association of the Deaf, and while there, I learned how to write sponsorship letters, business introduction letters, etc., because I was working with the PR person there at the time. And that translated into me providing those services on the writing platform of Fiverr. At the time, I only did it as something to make a little extra money, so I didn't really take it seriously at the time. However, throughout all of my university years and even after, writing is what I found gave me certain experiences that I never thought possible, right? I could travel. I was making a lot more money than I thought was possible in writing. I was meeting a lot of different people across the world. It was more fruitful than any other job I had gotten since graduating. So I said to myself, all right, I'm taking a sign that writing is what I really should be leaning into wholeheartedly. So in 2019, 2020, thereabouts is when I started branching out more, reaching out to other clients, and God essentially put them in my path. So I started working with more people, gaining a bit more notoriety, especially in Jamaica, because people overseas know me, like as far as Australia. That's where my clients extended to, right? It's just that I didn't really have a name in Jamaica, so to speak. So I started working more in the country and building my brand. And then in 2020, because of something that happened with two clients I had at the time, I was in a state of introspection where I had to figure out what it is I actually wanted my life to look like moving forward. Because up until that point, I was essentially pouring all of my energy, my resources, my creativity, everything into other people's dreams without really giving much consideration to my own. So after I started that period of introspection, I sat down with God and spoke about, all right, so this is what my life has been up to this point. I am not happy. I know you have something more in store for me. What is that? And then for some reason, I just started writing a book in the latter part of 2020, one book. And I said, all right, cool. So you wanted to communicate, and this is me with him, you wanted to communicate some helpful stuff that entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs or freelancers can use on their journey to success. Cool. So that's the shape that the first book took, right? And leading into 2021, the book, or I started getting ideas for other books. I'm like, God, slow down now. But he's like, no, you need to get this out now because you've been writing and no one can associate you with writing. You need something. And I said, all right, so you either go small or go big. And he says, write 3 books one time. Like, you sure? And he's like, I don't give you more than you can bear. So when I started writing the other 2 books, what I found is that they complemented each other. So I would reference each other or reference the other books in each other, reference chapters, reference lines, reference quotes. So all 3 books started writing themselves, so to speak. So it's not a case where we're taking on the extra load, delayed them being finished, helped them being finished, essentially. And that led into finding not publishers out there, but places that I could print the book, get my ISBN. Essentially, everything that I needed to get the books out there just started falling into place, so to speak. And every milestone that hit, for example, getting my ISBN, getting the covers done, doing the photo shoots, everything that seemingly fell into place, I just kind of had to give a nod to God, be like, all right, yes, definitely this is the path that you want me to go on, right? That eventually led me to you and seeking your guidance and meeting you and finding out essentially what would be needed to make it possible in Jamaica specifically, or for a Jamaican author to be successful. Same thing. So in the sense of God's influence and the path I'm currently on now, the very fact that we're talking now or we're having this discussion right now kind of indicates the point I'm making as it relates to the trajectory or the direction of my life as it relates to what God wants of me as a writer or as an influence out there. And coming back to the influence to speak about how all of this essentially is to leave a legacy of truthfulness, positivity, and development, especially for the youth in Jamaica. Because I know it's easy to get tempted by it's easy to get swayed by the temptation of saying that there's nothing in this country or nothing can be done, or it's all doom and gloom, right? It's especially difficult to stay positive in our country because we, on a regular basis, we're fed with 70% negative and 30, if so much, positive, right? So I said, because of my personality and what I want to see in the country or what I want to see in my country and what I would want other young people, the type of mindset I would want other young people to latch onto, all of this was done in the effort to essentially create a legacy of that. I know that, and I've come to grips already with the fact that, or the possibility that I might not even see the full impact of my influence while I'm alive. I might die before I even see a glimpse of that. But if I do nothing at all, it guarantees that future generations won't benefit from my efforts right now. So that's essentially, the bow wrapped around this whole Aaron's purpose thing. So it started with getting my feet wet as it relates to writing online and spreading word overseas, getting some loyal clients, and then it moved to the books. Currently writing my fourth one, releasing it in November, and the businesses as well. So I want to be able to leave these type of resources for people in the future. It's kind of what we call it fast track their ability to earn additional income for themselves, find fulfillment, start businesses, start successful freelance journey, whatever the case is. Because even though with how fast the world has grown and developed and progressed, there are still people who have no idea how to invest, how to start a business, how to earn money online, how to work remotely. There's still a whole heap of people, especially young people, who aren't aware of these resources that we have out there. And because I know that I feel as though it's my duty to share it, whether I benefit from it or not, because I've been blessed from it. And it would be selfish of me not to try and help others get the kind of results or even better results that I've gotten for myself. So that's essentially what I've been doing with the help of God up until this point. I'm just a vessel, essentially.
Wow. I love it because, like you said, there are so many people that say they want to do things, but there is something different when somebody say, but not just say, but be obedient to the voice of God to pursue what they believe that God is saying to them. Right.
Yeah.
And for me, that's something that I really admire so far about just watching your journey. You are not just talking the talk. You're saying, okay, Lord, how can I be a vessel? How can you use me? And one of the things I see a lot in church and the religious circle is that they would come to church and sing the songs. Lord, have your way and all of these things, and get up and go home and then complain about not having money or complain about, I'm not saying that people don't have money or people don't have things, we're not saying that, but there's a bigger faith that is required to trust God. Because boy, if I was waiting on money, Aaron, to do or be where I'm at, boy, I would be stuck somewhere in Maxfield or Jungle still waiting on my financial breakthrough, but
Yeah.
I can definitely stand with you to say, when God gives you a vision, he really, really and truly does the provision, and that I definitely believe is a blessing so far. So talk to us about specifically, you have 3 books. You can tell us the name of the 3 books, but let's just jump a little bit in the relationship one, because we always want to touch, when a young man is in the house, we just kind of want to touch where their headspace is regarding that. So tell them the 3 books that you have, but let's talk a little bit about the relationship one.
All right, so it's The Pursuit of Greatness, that's centered around success, freelancing, entrepreneurship, and money management. There's The Pursuit of Life, that focuses on finding fulfillment in life, building a legacy, and finding meaning in what you do in your daily life. And then there's The Pursuit of Love, which speaks about self-love, establishing enriching relationships and intimate relationships as well.
All right. So talk to us about the pursuit of the love.
All right. So The Pursuit of Love, if I'm being completely honest, as young as I am, it's formed from some, I don't want to say solely terrible experiences as it relates to relationships. And when I say relationships, I mean intimate relationships and relationship with myself. Right. But the majority of it is formed from it, but it gives constructive advice to help with it in a sense. So basically, it covers 2 main areas, which is the relationship you have with yourself, or your self-love or your self-worth, and the relationship that you have with others. The reason why I do it that way is because I noticed that, you have that phenomenon where you look for love in other people, and when those people are uprooted from your life, you don't know where to look, you don't know how to love yourself type of thing. You also have that phenomenon where you don't really have an origin for how you view yourself, so to speak. So the self-love aspect of the book focuses on you isolating yourself as a person, of finding out what you don't like about yourself, what you like about yourself, in order to improve on your image of self, essentially, to get you to start liking yourself, to eventually get you to start loving yourself, essentially. So I start the book up that way, so that if you know how to love yourself, and you know the type of love that you want or need for yourself, for example, the love languages, how you feel most loved and how you express love most effectively, then it helps informing relationships. And that's where the second part of the book comes in, where it speaks about, one, the value of wholesome relationships, and wholesome relationships specifically with strangers, people you don't know, and how to identify what unconditional love looks like. And then it leads into intimate relationships specifically. Now that is I think out of all three of the books I have so far, this book, specifically these chapters as it relates to intimate relationships, are the most controversial, because I know there are parts of it that people won't agree with, and parts that people will open their eyes to. As a matter of fact, someone spoke to me recently about their experience reading it, and they said somehow in the relationship aspect of it, in the intimate relationship aspect, it motivated them to start their weight loss journey. And I was trying to identify why it was the relationship aspect as opposed to the self-love aspect. When they explained it to me, I was like, well, I didn't even see it that way. So I know that even though it's written a particular way to communicate a particular message, it can be interpreted in so many different ways, and by extension impact people differently. It might impact your work relationships, your relationship with yourself. It might get you to reconcile with things that happened in your past. It's extensive that way. But the principles mainly relate to infidelity, what it is that a wholesome relationship looks like to you, because it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's how you prioritize, how you love someone, and how you tell them you want to be loved, so to speak. It also speaks about loyalty and the value of loyalty. It also speaks to loving someone as opposed to the idea of owning the person while you're in a relationship with them. It also speaks about that sense of entitlement that mostly it's associated with men. If, for example, men are the majority breadwinners, right? Then there are some men, for example, who feel a sense of entitlement that they're able to dictate what a woman can do, where, what they should do with their life, etc., etc., etc. I'll touch on that as well, because really and truly we don't belong to anyone. And a whole bunch of other topics, to be completely honest. Don't ask me where all of them come from, because as I say, I wasn't the only one who wrote the book, because there are things in it that make sense that I don't have a direct, like I didn't experience it myself, but it's in there. Now, I know it didn't come from me alone, but that's essentially what it covers on. But I think is out of all of them, aside from the pursuit of life being the most insightful, because that covers everything in life. The pursuit of love specifically, if it is that, I recommend it to people who, one, they're having trouble pinpointing what their identity is, and if they're having trouble, for example, getting out of bed, finding meaning to why they exist, so to speak, why they in particular exist. It covers all of that. So if it is that someone is struggling with their self-worth, or they feel as though external influences play too much of a role in how they view themselves, I always recommend this book, because it covers that, in my opinion, it covers that really well. It helped me, as in what I communicate in it helped me. I put it down in an easy to understand way to help others help themselves as well.
Nice. So, I want to just ask, greatness, right? When you think about greatness, I mean, a lot of the idea of greatness in culturally, you think about, money and cars and a lot of material things, right? Mm-hmm. And then also it feels like sometimes again in the church, the idea of greatness is only God can be great, you mm-hmm. can't, there's a humility that must come if you're gonna be, you should consider yourself a great person, because pride might jump in. And it's just always interesting that the people of the world, they are able to tap into their potential more than those who are sometimes so religious. And we that are now on this walk and find ourselves doing, amazing things, writing 3 books at once and, now being called to speak and on TV and, all the things that I'm doing, I'm like, wow, like this for me is greatness and walking into my greatness. And I don't even think I'm the surface to where God wants to take me. But then you have to come with a level of humility that, or you won't be considered so much of a child of God, Christian. How do you deal with that conundrum of what is greatness for you, and how would you kind of encourage young men or people, not just young men, but persons that are listening to pursue that greatness?
Well, you mentioned the pursuit of greatness. In the very first chapter in the book, I encourage readers to sit down with themselves, again, isolate themselves and figure out what greatness or success looks like to them. Don't think about social media. Don't think about your parents. Don't even think about your past experiences. Where you are currently sitting down, thinking to yourself right now, what does success in all of its forms look like to you? Write down all aspects of your life. What would success look like in your relationship with God? What would success look like in your relationships? What would success look like in your work life? Don't think about external experiences. That's what the first chapter does, because I recognize that a lot of our ideas of success comes from other people, essentially. So we pursue greatness and we pursue success based on what we see other people's, or based on the achievements that we see other people have. What would it look like to you in your capacity, with your personality, with your brought up, say, with your background, with your resources? Because you have to be realistic as well. What would success really mean and look like to you? That's the first thing. Some people, for example, their idea of success or greatness is being able to say that they went on a plane. For others, their idea of success or greatness might be to own a plane. It's going to be different for everybody. So that's the first thing I encourage people to do. You have to identify what greatness looks like. It's going to look differently for different people. So that's the first thing I encourage people to do. And secondly, in the pursuit of greatness itself, specifically, and the conundrum that you mentioned, I would encourage people, and it's going to sound a bit strange, but I initially, when you asked me the question, I was going to say, strike a balance between full-fledged belief in your ability to do what you can do, as well as acknowledging that you're a vessel that's chosen by God to do what it is you want to do. However, what I find is that the balance thing is it comes from a place of having all right, I don't really want to say humility, but how I maintain my humility essentially is by, I don't want to say degrading myself, but making it seem as though there isn't much more outside of God's pouring into me. And the reason why I'm discouraging against that, not wholeheartedly, but not to do it as much, is because you form who you are not only through God's influence in your life, but the experiences that you have, the relationship that you form, and your personal pursuit of your goals and your achievements, right? God essentially puts you here and gives you the resources that you need to achieve them. However, it's not like he put you in a boat and expect you to just allow God to what do you call it now? What's the word I'm looking for? To steer the boat. As in, you don't expect God himself to steer the boat. He put you on the sea, he guide you through the sea, but you are steering the boat, essentially. And it touches on a topic in the pursuit of life where you yourself have to take responsibility for you. You have to take charge. You cannot be a passenger in your own life. So the reason why I'm saying lean a bit more into the belief in self, just a bit more, just slightly bit more, is because you have to acknowledge that out of every experience, out of every relationship, out of every connection, out of every opportunity you have, every single one of those things contributes to the kind of person that you are, to your personality, to your drive in life, to your beliefs, all of that. God gives you the energy, God gives you the gas, and it is your responsibility to push forward. So I'll say take a little less than humble approach to latching on to that idea that yes, you are special, you are capable, you are unique, in that there's no one else who has this caliber of experiences that you have, this caliber of opportunities. No one has the way that you think, no one rationalizes the way that you do, and then add that to the divine push that you get from God. And that is essentially how I believe you should go about, achieving things in life. Because if it is that, for example, and I had a conversation with somebody recently about this, if it is that you 100%, because I don't think anybody thinks this way, but if you, in my opinion, make the mistake of thinking you are simply just vessel, then it's, what we call it now, it diminishes, let's use the word flavor, the flavor that you bring to the world. So how else would God communicate with you if not through experiences that have been designed specifically for you? So put it this way, it's like, when you have a child and you give them the resources and they make the decision to, say for instance, they want to do piano lessons, or they want to sign up for ballet, or they want to do taekwondo. No, you might not have done or said anything to influence those decisions, but you're giving them the ability and the go-ahead to do it. It's the same with us and God, right? We are given the skill that we're given through our experiences, through even God. Because, some people are just good at certain things and our experience has nothing to do with it. It's just God. We are given those skills, we're given those talents, and He's giving us the go-ahead, one, through free will, and two, through His actual support and aligning us with resources. And then it is for us to grab it, hold on to it, make the most of it, and move forward to do something with it. So I would say, instead of striking a balance, first and foremost, acknowledge that God is there. And the only reason why you're here now is because you're here for a reason. And God is giving you the ability to achieve something greater with your life. And with that reassurance, you remind yourself of the quality of human being that you are, the caliber and capabilities that you possess. And with God's go ahead and support, then you achieve what it is that you want to achieve in life. That's how I would encourage people to go about achieving their greatness.
I like it because while, like you said, there is a balance, that perspective that is needed. I think because we are so cultured to think small and to think so lowly of ourselves, it will pose. Yeah. So because again, we are thinking so lowly of ourselves, when we do desire to go after the greatness, you find that the old mindset of, I must think low, keeps pulling us back, instead of saying, hey, I'm called and ordained and equipped and empowered by God to walk out this greatness, not because of who I am, but because of who He is in me. And that is what is humbling. I know in my heart, that it is Him through me. But like you said, we shape our life by the words that we say, so, things like we say, just hold it to me, just little old me, it's not so serious, things like that. And I find myself doing that. And again, these are just our words that have been shaping our insecurities. Thank you, Holy Spirit. That these are some of the words that shape our insecurities and then causes false humility in our lives. And I like that. You said, lean more into who God would have called you to be and shape those things by the words that you say and by the actions that you're willing to take. And I like that approach. First time I'm hearing something like that, but I really like that approach to greatness. So Aaron, as we kind of wrap up for today, here is what I want to do. I want to close off with what I consider 5 questions in 5 minutes, right? So you have just about a minute. And the first thing that kind of come to your mind, you will just share as, transparently as you can. Ready?
Yeah.
What would you say was the biggest challenge to walking into what you believe was the purpose God has on your life?
Believing it was actually meant for me. Like at the time you mentioned a while ago, thinking so lowly of ourselves that we cannot really wrap our head around being used as a vessel of God. So when it was laid out and God gave him a 5 to 10 year plan, at first I was not accepting that it was for me. But after, dipping my toe in the water, yeah, I started to believe it.
Wow. I love that, because I think it's funny because it was earlier this week, I was just kind of walking, doing my morning walk. And and it just came to me, when in 2016 that God gave me like a 5-year glimpse of what my life would look like, publishing company, coaching and all of that. And at that time I could not see myself having a publishing. I didn't even know what a coach was. And there were so many insecurities that came with that, like, me? What? Me? Yeah. So it's kind of comforting to know that men struggle a little bit with it. I know that's a little bias, but it's true.
No, it's fine.
And also, I'm also glad that you would be able to push past that doubt, because I believe a lot of us experience that. So thank you for that. The next question I would say is, how do you bounce back from failed relationships?
I use them as opportunities to learn more about myself. Because I'll be honest, it's characteristic of me to be very accommodating in my relationships. But then I realized that was coming more from a place of insecurity than it was me being that type of person. So after each relationship, I kind of just use the majority of the experiences to look at myself and my personality and to find out why, or to find out what influenced certain decisions. You get me? And then I move forward. So put it this way. No new relationship experiences my past mistakes or my past shortcomings, essentially.
Very interesting. Very interesting, The next question I want to ask, you say you like to kind of do adventurous things. What would you say is the most adventurous thing that you have ever done?
All right, well, travel. All right, let's isolate it to travel, because I don't know. But travel is getting up and just going somewhere without really packing anything, like clothes, knowing where I'm going. I just get up and go somewhere, and then I walk around the place, asking people about, all right, where can I stay, or where can I buy clothes and stuff. Kind of, what you call it now, last minute backpacking, so to speak, but without a bag, essentially.
I feel like men can do that. That would be a little bit scary for me as a woman. But okay, what would you say you are working on now, or something that you're looking forward to, accomplishing within the next year?
All right. Well, what I'm working on now, I mentioned before, is book number 4, which is going to center around my investment journey. And I'm supposed to release that in November of this year. It's going to be added to the Pursuit series, so it's going to be considered book number 4 in the series, but it's going to be different from all 3 books.
Nice. And just because I'm being a little biased, let me ask, what would, if for any aspiring author that's listening, I want you to give aspiring author, your biggest advice, and also for a current author that's listening, what would be your biggest advice?
Same advice to both?
No. So one for aspiring and one for current authors.
All right, for aspiring, just do it, to be completely honest. And you're going to have doubt every single day, every single time you take up a pen, every single time you type a word, you're going to have doubt throughout the entire process. I have yet to meet any author that is 100% convicted before they become an author that what they're doing is right, or it will be fruitful or whatever. Doubts plague me left, right, and center throughout the entire process. But think about what's on the other side, or what could potentially be on the other side. What would happen if you just say, all right, let me not pay attention to the doubt for at least the next few months and then get this book out there? What would it look like? And then you see, once it's out there, you realize that, as much as the doubt exists, what's more fruitful, or what will bring you the type of happiness, so to speak, that the doubt won't, is seeing what happens at the end of all your labor. So that's the advice I would give to an aspiring author. Now, for an existing author, if it is that they've written a book, is it a case where they're not seeing the results that they want, or they're working on different? Right. So with that and I learned this from Crystal and a lot of other people, specifically Shanti Blanchard, is that as an author, especially if you're not being picked up by a established publishing house, just know say you have to turn everything that will be related to the publishing process. You have to be your own editor. Well, no, you don't have to be your own, but you have to learn how to edit. You have to learn how to market. You have to learn how to distribute. You have to learn ways. You basically have to learn a business essentially as an author. So if it is that you thought, for example, that just writing the book was it and telling people, nah, fam, you have to put yourself out there constantly. It's like you have to become your own salesperson. You have to sell yourself, and instead of really selling yourself, you really let other people sell you, because that's what's been most effective for me. More so telling people that this is what they experience other people have been getting and how it can help them as well. So I don't really sell anything. I just consistently share what other people have been getting from reading my books to kind of push it, because I realize that you selling your book is going to come off as you selling your book. But if it is that you quote unquote sell the experience that other people have been having, then it's going to seem more down to earth. It's going to seem like something that everybody knows about, everybody wants to hear. You know, like when you go to a restaurant and you have a meal, and then if somebody asks you in the future, where can I go to get XYZ, you recommend that restaurant. It's the same for your book. It's more so associating your book with a type of experience that someone would want to have. And the most effective way I've found to do that is to let other people's experience tell the story that they can have for themselves.
I feel so proud. I feel so listen, I like when people listen to me, and that makes so much sense. You say that brand building piece, because that's what you're in essence doing, you know. You're living what you are preaching, and people are seeing the fruits of what you're preaching, and as a result they want to be a part of that journey. So I love that. So Aaron, I want to thank you for just jumping on the podcast again. We love when the men are here. We love here when the young men are just stepping out and doing great things. And of course I'm expecting, this, I've told you, I'm expecting you to show up and do even bigger things, I always tell him that he reminds me of Trent Shelton, I believe, probably at a Ras ear, could be, so probably, but I do expect, God to do amazing things in and through you, and, he would get the glory and honor from your life, and, persons will see the light. And I thank you again for just answering that call. Thank you for being here on the Dara for Jesus Girl podcast. And if you have, any final thing to share, please go ahead and do that now.
Amen, definitely. Thank you for having me. I believe that a lot of people that listen to this are either aspiring authors or already authors. What I would say to both of them, or both sets of people, just as an umbrella piece of advice, I guess, from a young person, would be we become different people, or we unlock different aspects of our lives as we enter new stages of our lives. So, you have the earning money, you have the laying foundation, you have building stability, all of that, and we become different people at different stages. As an author, aspiring or established, don't limit yourself to the title of author or the title of writer, because above all else, we are people. We experience and grow at different stages. So when, as an author, we reach the stage of building a foundation, you find that you might develop different interests, different passions, different hobbies. You reach another stage, it's the same thing. Use your writing, use your authorship to enhance these new stages of your life. You'll find that life is way more fruitful that way. And if I consider that at the age of 26, imagine somebody who just started,
that is amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Aaron, for just sharing that. Guys, again, we want to thank you for listening to another episode of the For Jesus Girl podcast. I hope that you have been blessed. Sometimes our conversations are a little bit different. Sometimes we're very churchy. Sometimes we're a bit more practical, and other times we're just flowing. And I believe that somebody will be inspired by something that Aaron have said. Please go and follow him on Instagram. Go and check out his books, and just go and support. Tell somebody about Aaron, because we are always cheering on our men as they do great things for the kingdom. So God bless you. See you guys next week for another amazing episode of the Dara for Jesus Girl podcast. Woo, woo. And have a great week. Go and check out my YouTube channel also. Yay! Right? I've been doing quite a few YouTube videos, just stepping out of my comfort zone. So go and check that that out and like and subscribe and share with somebody else. So we're out for this week. God bless you. I love you now, and God love you no more.
Diary of a Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey, it's the diary of a Jesus girl.